本日は当事務主催ルクセンブルクを知る
ウェビナーシリーズルックストークの第1回目、欧州アクセラレーターに聞くスタートアップ海外事業展開成功の鍵にご参加くださいまして誠にありがとうございます。進行を務めさせていただきますルクセンブルク貿易投資事務所の石黒です。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。はじめにタイムスケジュールをご説明させていただきます。冒頭にピエール・フェリング駐日ルクセンブルク大使より皆様にご挨拶申し上げます。続いてルクセンブルクのスタートアップエコシステムについてルクスイノベーション、スタートアップ、アクセラレーション部門長のステファン・ベレント氏にお話しいただきます。なお、あらかじめ予告しておりましたデジタルエコノミー国際事業開発部門長のデイビッド・フォイ氏は急遽都合がつかなくなりましたので、本日は代わりにステファン氏に登壇いただきます。その後、本日のパネルディスカッションのゲストスピーカーであるトゥモローストリート CEO、ケネス・グラハム氏、R3i ベンチャーズジェネラルパートナー、リーサ・ソロードレイ氏、LUXKO CEO セミパークスに、それぞれのルクセンブルクでの取り組みを紹介いただきます。17時35分よりゲストスピーカーとパネルディスカッションを行います。モデレーターは株式会社シリコンバレーベンチャーズ代表取締役社長兼 CEO の森若幸次郎氏です。講演は英語ですが、本日は同時通訳がございます。ズーム画面下部通訳ボタンよりご希望の言語をお選びください。18時5分より質疑応答セッションを行う予定です。タイムスケジュールの説明は以上です。それでは早速始めさせていただきます。まずは、ピエール・フェリング駐日大使よりご挨拶いただきます。Please welcome Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you. Thank you. Distinguished guests, dear audience, dear speakers. Luxembourg is a close friend of Japan. This friendship is the basis of our cooperation.Because friendship gives trust. Having trust is again the foundation of business and innovation, even more so in today's interconnected world. The Luxembourg-Japan cooperation embraces a large range of sectors: financial services, logistics, air cargo services, ICT, space-related services, and not to forget environmental new technologies.As in the movie we saw already, world-renowned companies from Japan have chosen their European headquarters in Luxembourg. As there are, for example, Fanak, Rakuten, or iSpace, which is very close to my heart. These companies take benefit of Luxembourg's exceptional linguistic capabilities to serve the multilingual European single market. Recently, in the follow-up of the British departure from the European Union,We have seen again a series of Japanese banks and insurance companies opening a presence in Luxembourg to serve the European single market from Luxembourg, and we are happy to be at their service. Being a small country, Luxembourg has always been open to the world. Openness is part of our DNA. It is a driving force which made us reach some of the top positions in the world GDP tables.However, in my opinion, the true challenge for excellence is not getting to the top, but remaining on the top. To achieve this, innovation is everything. Alongside the willingness to question and to reinvent yourself in a permanent manner. For good economic planning, it is essential, therefore, to think ahead what the world will look like in 10, 20, even 30 years beforehand.It was for these reasons that the Luxembourg government tasked Jeremy Rifkin a few years ago to conduct a study about how best to prepare the country for the ongoing changes driven by new technologies in order to become more sustainable, smart, and data-driven. Our overall approach towards innovation, may it be in ICT, in automation, robotics, big data, 5G, etc., is always the same.Let's be open and let's make things happen. When I was still the diplomatic advisor on European affairs of Luxembourg Prime Minister Xavier Bettel, one of the achievements I was most happy about was the agreement to set up a new computer in my home country, a supercomputer, which is aiming at specifically addressing the business needs of small and medium-sized companies and startups. By the way, I think that a good demonstration of Luxembourg's openness to the world, to innovation, to new ideas, and to startups is the speakers list of today's web seminar. Many of the speakers have not what I would call a traditional Luxembourg name, but we are happy and grateful to have them in our team because they are an enriching factor for an ecosystem for innovation. Innovation can never prosper in a secluded mindset. And by the way, I think our speakers are all very sympathetic set of people and of colleagues. The private business accelerators in Luxembourg owe their success not by Luxembourg going global, but by Luxembourg being global already today. I will not go into the details of specific programs like Fit for Start to assist startups. I'm sure that the speakers who will follow me are much better able to do that than I could. I stop here because diplomats like me, we have a habit to speak for too long. Maybe just a few words to conclude. Luxembourg is a small country in Europe. And in everything we do, we are aware of our size. Still, when it comes to preparing for the world of tomorrow, you need to think big, even if you are small. That is what we have in common with the startup culture. I would like to wish you a good discussion today. I hope that at some stage we can soon again meet and have a live chat with some real social exchanges here on the ground, here in the embassy of Luxembourg here in Tokyo. And maybe then you will allow me to host some old-fashioned Luxembourg reception with good quality Luxembourg Mose white ones at the end. I thank you a lot. I wish you good success, prosperity, and in particular good health. Take care, and we see you again. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. それでは、プレゼンテーションに移らせていただきたいと思います。スピーカーはルクスイノベーションスタートアップアクセラレーション部門長のステファン・ベレント氏です。Stefan, floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Also, thank you very much, dear Ambassador Ferring, for the intro. Indeed, innovation is really close to the heart of Luxembourgish government, but also is lived by the companies that you can find in Luxembourg. Please let me introduce the startup ecosystem to you. You will find a very good infrastructure where you can plug and play your startup from the very beginning. There's a lot of support already on the ground. You can find institutional startup support services there, be it the House of Entrepreneurship, who really helps you how to set up a company from an administrative perspective. How do you get your business permit? Where do you find the application files for your VAT numbers? All these kind of things. There's Lux Innovation, which is the national agency of innovation and also research. So we are there to really give you a helping hand from day one, how to connect with your potential customers, how to connect with research facilities, how do you find your collaboration partner, and can you really build a sustainable and real innovative product from Luxembourg. There's incubators such as the House of Startups. House of Startups incubates other incubators. I will introduce a few of them in a second, and also LUXKO, of course, for early stage companies or projects, actually even where they help to connect efficiently and find the ideal go-to-market strategies in that sense. So what kind of incubators, accelerators, and innovation hubs can you find in Luxembourg? There's a few to mention. They are all unique in that sense that they focus on specific needs of their key customers. So be it the Technoport, for example, it's the oldest incubator in Luxembourg. They were with us from day one. They are very strongly supported by the government, and they are really close to cutting edge technology in additive manufacturing fields, in space environments, and so on. There's, of course, fintech hubs like the Luxembourg House of Financial Technologies. Le Plateau is a corporate incubator from Société Générale, of course, and also focusing on fintech and regtech companies. House of Biohealth speaks for itself. Of course, there's also Paul Wucht incubator focusing on Indutech, so industrial applications in that sense. And then, of course, and this is a good example, I think they can leverage the entity, the corporates behind, which is Paul Wucht, a global player in that field. And so you will have an access to an international and global environment also from day one. Speaking of global environments, Tomorrow Street, of course, should also be mentioned. Tomorrow Street is a joint venture between the technical board, this next gen incubator, and a global company like Vodafone. So really a global setting from the very beginning, and they are supporting successfully scale-ups in their incubator. But you will hear much more about this in greater detail from Kenny, who's going to speak in a few minutes. On the corporate programs, of course, there's much more activity also. There's the Big Fours, but you will also hear from R3i, from Lisa in a few minutes about their setting for medtech companies, for instance, or deep tech companies in greater detail. And of course, bridging, so the soft lending from together with LUXKO is really of great help to get easy and fast access, not to Luxembourg, but actually to Europe. There's, of course, other startups. You heard from the ambassador already from Fit for Start. It's a key accelerator in the ecosystem. It's managed by Lux Innovation, but there's many strong partners around. A 6-month acceleration program up to 150K in non-equity financial support. Very many strong coaches are grouped around the program in order to ensure a high probability of success for all startups within the program. Of course, there's events, maybe to highlight ICT Spring Europe, a key event in Luxembourg, but also the Art Summit and a few others to mention, of course, and then backed by the media and networking activities on top of that. So how big is the startup environment in Luxembourg in that sense? We did an in-depth analysis of that. We found more than 400 startups in working with cutting-edge technologies in different sectors. Of course, fintech is very well presented. That's not a surprise in order to leverage infrastructure existing in Luxembourg, but also other key initiatives like a booming space sector. It's now represented with 6%. You can see the cutoff date is June 2020. We are finalizing another mapping for June 2021 just now, and I can tell that the space sector already increased significantly since then. But also other sectors like clean tech are moving fast in Luxembourg, which is very well fitting with the overall strategy of Luxembourg for the country. So what do you need to be successful as an innovator, as an early stage company or a medium-sized enterprise going to Europe? Of course, you need strong partners around, but also strong initiatives in order to test your product, in order to scale your product, in order to internationalize and find customers for your products. So as already mentioned, Luxembourg is a small country in size, but the mindset is really thinking global from the very beginning. So there were smart decisions made in order to focus and highlight the digitalization initiatives in the country, signed partnerships with key actors in specific domains such as NVIDIA for artificial intelligence or Cisco on the digitization side. Of course, there's a booming and a very dynamic fintech ecosystem that is thinking very global from day one. I mentioned a key actor in that domain with Luxembourg House of Financial Technologies earlier. Automotive or smart mobility, smart cities is a key pillar also for the country. So already a few years back, there was a very interesting initiative signed. It's a digital cross-border initiative. So it's the only initiative that's globally where you can test automotives and driving in 3 countries at the same time. So it's a signed partnership with Luxembourg, France, and Germany, the direct neighbors of the tiny country. Also, of course, a key pillar in order to be successful is access to talent and access to research facilities. Luxembourg has a very young university, but also a very, again, dynamic university. There's more than 6,000 students already, but from more than 100 different countries. So it very well fits with the international mindsets of Luxembourg. And it was ranked 12th worldwide of the young universities globally. There's then key facilities that you can find that are doing research in sectors such as cybersecurity, fintech, IoT, and autonomous vehicles. There's also a facility focusing on neurodegenerative diseases with a strong focus on bioinformatics and computational systems in that sense. Again, you see an underlying key factor is data and big data, which is aligned with the overall strategy. Of course, the Luxembourg Institute of Health is of great importance to mention, and lists the Luxembourg Institute of Science Technology is also a key pillar in this ecosystem. Another key point, of course, financing. How do you get access to funding? And there's a lot of activities to mention. On the one side, there is governmental support. So it's grants. It's not an equity participation in your company or a debt instrument that you need to pay back. It's really a strong incentive to foster R&D and innovation in your company in Luxembourg. And then, of course, backed by an interesting instrument like the Young Innovative Enterprise, where you can benefit of up to 800,000 euros to support your growth in the company once you have made the first steps and you have completed your product. A few other initiatives to mention: the SNCI. They provide financing to SMEs in Luxembourg. It's the state bank, LBAN, the Business Angels Network, of course, for early stage companies. More and more very successful entrepreneurs engage with this network in order to find interesting and highly innovative startups and where they can make a difference with the smart money. It's not just the money, they actively get involved and support your journey. Also to mention the Digital Tech Fund, again, partly private and partly public initiative, a seed fund for early stage companies. To complete the picture, there's the Luxembourg Future Fund, where the European Investment Fund is a limited partner in the initiative to engage with highly interesting companies in their scale-up phases. A few are mentioned on the slides. This is it from my side. The easiest way to get up to date about what's going on in the startup ecosystem, do not hesitate to follow us on the mentioned social networks on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. We're happy to get engaged, so please do not hesitate to reach out in case of any questions. Thank you very much.
続きまして、トゥモローストリート CEO ケネス・グラハム氏よりお話しいただきたいと思います。Mr. Graham, please start your presentation. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, good day, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to join the webinar. Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, Stefan, for your speeches. I'm Kenny Graham, I CEO of Tomorrow Street. I am just, and Tomorrow Street is just one of the many accelerators and incubators in Luxembourg that Stefan gave a brief on just a few moments ago. But I think Tomorrow Street's a very good example of how the corporate world and the Luxembourg ecosystem and government come together to support and advance young companies. Tomorrow Street's actually a joint venture between Vodafone, a global technology company, and Technoport, one of the incubators in Luxembourg. And our focus is on finding great young companies, scale-ups from across the world, bringing them to Luxembourg and then helping them grow across the Vodafone global ecosystem. So our core objectives are, first of all, for Vodafone. It's a joint venture between Vodafone and Technoport, representing the Luxembourg community. But the core objectives for Vodafone is actually to find young companies with exciting tech that fit with Vodafone's strategic priorities, and helping those young companies bed into Vodafone and grow to become the strategic suppliers of the future. Now, this is particularly exciting at the moment because Vodafone have been around for quite some time, a traditional telco, if you like, providing mobile and fixed connectivity, but now transitioning to be a tech comms company, providing a whole host of different digital services and solutions, which means for us, our range of technologies that we look at are very wide. For Luxembourg, our core objective is to attract young companies to the country and take part in that growing tech ecosystem that Stefan just talked about. And our objective for the scale-ups is to help them go global, So we're looking at companies that have a proven product in a particular country, got a little bit of business, but need that help to really grow and become global success stories. Our model, we have a very simple three-part model: find, validate, and scale. I'll talk more about that in a moment, but I wanted just to draw your attention to the right-hand side of this chart, which is the Vodafone global ecosystem. Vodafone's a good example of many of the global corporations that you see based or having a strong presence in Luxembourg. Vodafone operate fixed and mobile networks, so providing voice and data connectivity across 24 countries in the world. They also have a partner network of networks in 40 other countries, and also have business customers in over 200 countries across the world, which means for us, we have a wonderful global playing field in which we can help young companies to scale. A little bit more about our model. As I said, scout, validate, scale. If we look at the scouting and finding great young companies, having a strong global ecosystem is absolutely vital. We're blessed with some great partners such as Accenture, Amdocs, Exclusive Networks, and they understand the priorities that we have in terms of finding new technologies and introduce us to some fantastic young companies with great potential that we can potentially bring to Luxembourg and take out to the Vodafone ecosystem. We look at maybe around 600 companies a year. Now, once we find companies that look like they might be strategically relevant for Vodafone and have a place within and relevance for the Luxembourg ecosystem, we then go through a very robust validation process to ensure that we're really confident about the potential to scale that company. And we look at what we often describe as the hard factors and the soft factors. The hard factors being, is the technology scalable? Is it well funded? Is it relevant to the marketplaces that we have reach into? And the soft factors, also very important, is just working on the culture to make sure there's a cultural fit between the companies, their leaders, and the Vodafone and Luxembourg ecosystems. And we typically do a deep dive in around 50 companies a year and put them through that validation process. And when we partner with a company, that's where we essentially become business development and operational support partners within the Vodafone ecosystem. So we work with those companies to create opportunity roadmaps. We help them work through what can sometimes be complex processes within a large global corporate. We help make the introductions, we help nudge opportunities forward, and we're there as a helping hand when sometimes a young company might come across some challenges in a large corporate. Pleased to say that we've got 8 fantastic scale-up partners today who are all supporting Vodafone's strategic deliveries at the moment, so supporting digital transformations and also creating new customer propositions that are reaching a global audience. We have 8 partners today. We will grow that to 16 around in the next 18 months. And the final point just to mention, and Stefan touched on it briefly, is we also run an annual tech summit, the Arch Summit, where we bring together about 200 startups, about 90 corporate companies, large global corporations, to connect together and look for opportunities. Thank you very much.
続きまして、次のスピーカーご紹介させていただきます。R3i Ventures よりフェデラルパートナーのリサ・ソロードレースです。Let us introduce the next speaker, Ms. Lisa Slodre from R3i Ventures. Please welcome.
What a great pleasure it is to be with you here today. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, and thank you to all. I'm here to share with you our Luxembourg Calling Program, a platform that we built to scale cross-border companies into Luxembourg so that you can commercialize, capitalize, and accelerate your R&D pathways. As a venture capitalist and serial entrepreneur, I've always had a mission to save the planet one startup at a time. And we do that through our platforms here in Luxembourg. As you know, 70% of startups will fail in the first 20 months, and 97% of startups will fail. But we've been able to tap the secret ingredients that are going to reduce that startup failure down to only 12%. We built the House of Deep Tech in Luxembourg to scale our deep tech companies that are capable of transforming our planet for impact. It is one door for foreign direct investment and open innovation for our corporates. And in our House of MedTech, it is one door for rapid commercialization and scale as the new market entry point to the European Union and the MDR. We've built a global team of expert inventors, venture capitalists, deep tech pioneers, and data scientists who can help your companies to land and expand successfully into the region. When you land in country, particularly in the segments that we've highlighted, we provide you with a pathway to accelerated regulatory approvals, connect you into your strategic partner networks, and help you to tap our global family office and venture capital networks for capitalization. We also network you into the corporate partners that we have in the ecosystem and provide live mentorship from a global network of capable navigators to support you to achieve your key milestones. We work with the local ecosystem of partners, players like Technoport and others, to help you find office space and other accommodations in the region. But most of all, Luxembourg is our key testbed in order to demonstrate that critical proof of concept and proof of value in the European context for scale. Did you know that early stage entrepreneurs that are going to successfully exit their business at a value of 6 million to 1.2 billion share these 10 common traits? And we use these key intrinsic motivators to not only select the founders that land with us, but also to coach the founders to both scale the company cohesively and also to provide them with successful coaching so that everybody is aligned to the tasks that they enjoy most in order to optimize performance. Companies that have landed with us include companies like STEMI, who is providing real-time healthcare ecosystem solutions to save unnecessary time delays in emergencies. They've landed in our House of MedTech and are now rapidly scaling into the European Union. ViewMind is a company that has landed with us from Argentina. Not only have they capitalized their company through to pre-Series A, they have forged 2 collaborations with the Luxembourg Institutes and have now secured their CE mark and residency permits for the company to relocate from Argentina and land successfully in the region. A global partnership with a world-class OEM now provides the platform for growth internationally. And Naluri, a chronic disease prevention platform built in Malaysia with the world's largest insurers, has now landed to test its platform for its digital therapeutics certification. They are rapidly growing their team and are going to play an active role in the reduction of chronic disease in Europe. And SIGA has just landed yesterday, a critical infrastructure protection cybersecurity company out of Israel in order to protect the critical infrastructure of utilities and energy companies across Europe. These are just a few examples of companies that see the Luxembourg Research Institute ecosystem as the ideal place to land to accelerate their R&D roadmaps and clinical pathways. And here is a testimonial from one of our founders, Dr. Jeremy Ting, who successfully with his team last week closed $5 million in capital with the world's largest insurers and venture capital firms. If you are a company that is a scale-up deep tech or med tech company with a patent in portfolio, who is seeking to commercialize, capitalize, and accelerate your R&D, who has demonstrated strong product fit in Japan, existing revenues, and are ready for cross-border scale, we'd love to talk to you. And if you are a female founder, we would love to provide you with an opportunity to get capitalized and join us on She Loves Tech on the 21st of September. The deadline is on July 30, and there's an opportunity to connect with our founders, connect with our experts, and have an opportunity to get that platform for scale and tap into our $2 billion in the $1 billion Fund for Women. I'm Lisa Salud. I'm the general partner of R3i Ventures. We've got the House of Deep Tech and House of MedTech in Luxembourg, and we're here to help you scale. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. それでは次のスピーカーのご紹介に移りたいと思います。LUXKO CEO セミパーク氏をお迎えしたいと思います。Ms. Park, floor is yours. Thank you.
Hi, nice to meet you. はじめまして。This is Semi Park from LUXKO Consulting. So I'm located in Luxembourg. LUXKO Consulting brings business from South Korea, Japanese innovation, especially high technology companies to Europe to set up the incorporation from Luxembourg to expand their wings to the European area. So our concert, there was a lot of good like ecosystem presentations from Lux Innovations and LKIO Japan, and the venture capitals. So it is really great. We have a really great ecosystems in Luxembourg. It's a very small country, but because of these R&D opportunities and because of the strong support of government, the Asian companies, especially South Korean companies, wants to make their company in Europe, especially in Luxembourg. So our consulting service is a very tailor-made services. So before you enter into the European market, you have to know which sales market you are aiming for, which client you are aiming for. So we do market research with our specialists before you enter into the European market. And of course, we have also a great network with export and trading consulting consultant who can also speak in Japanese. Later, I will introduce Namikawa-san. So we have also a big track record with our big clients. So we have incubating services for our Korean Japanese startups, especially because the culture is very different between Asia, Eastern Asia, and then European countries. So our performance is lately during the pandemic, we incorporated Context Space, one of the really promising ground station service company from South Korea, which they completed just a Series B funding, and Infinix AI, which is artificial intelligence for the autonomous driving. And thanks to Ministry of Economy's big support, they are really one of the leading company who set up their companies at IEE, which is also very prominent sensor company in Luxembourg, who is aiming to make a lot of test driving AI tests with different key players. So we have a big track record so far during especially pandemic, because people couldn't travel, and of course the business must be must go on, and the earlier to enter to the market, it's the better. So the other local investment support, we also with the investors from Europe, also Luxembourg, for example, to be.lu venture capital, who invest usually for seed and Series A. So they invested for the blockchain Korean company, fintech company, in last year 1.1 million. So once you are really successful in your local market and entering to the European market, we support also your IR process. So this is very briefly incubating process, how we work. So the important point is if you have some small success from Japanese market, your local market is very important to show the investors or local players before you entering to Luxembourg or European market. That is why we also do some kind of KYC with our clients, that whether you are really now ready to enter the European market, or you should prepare more success in your local market. So this will be shared later. And now I will give the headset to Namikawa-san, our Japanese consultant.
こんにちは。はじめまして。日系企業の欧州進出をルクセンブルクよりサポートしております、並川と申します。今回はLUXKOさんとコラボレートさせていただくご縁がございまして、ぜひ皆様のビジネスをルクセンブルクより日本語でサポートさせていただければと思います。日本市場、日系企業でのビジネス経験もあり、欧州のビジネス文化、日本のビジネス文化、両サイド対応させていただいております。プレゼン資料に記載されております通り、日系企業のフジテレビ、日本タバコという、企業での、勤務経験もございます。言語も、日本語、英語、フランス語、スペイン語、対応可能です。具体的に日系企業の欧州における、ビジネスコンサルティングで、食品メーカーのエバラさんや、文具、キングジムさん等の大企業のコンサルティングを行った経歴もございます。御社のビジネスを欧州で拡大するサポート、そして御社拠点をルクセンブルクに立ち上げるサポートを、ぜひこちら、現地のルクセンブルクより、貢献させていただければと思います。ありがとうございます。
Thank you. So I think the other business partners, because we are running the time, so later it can be shared from LKI Japan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Now we move to the panel discussion section. まもなくパネルディスカッションセクションに移りたいと思いますので、少々お待ちくださいませ。ましたので、ここでパネルディスカッションのモデレーターをご紹介させていただきます。株式会社シリコンバレーベンチャーズ代表取締役社長兼 CEO の森若幸次郎氏です。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
よろしくお願いします。Good to see everybody. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. So let's begin. Are you guys ready? Yeah.
All right. We're ready, John. We're ready.
Bacha, high five, everybody. Let's party. Yeah. So I was so amazed to see all of you today. So Kenny, you were born in Scotland, right?
I was, yes.
No. 今通訳ちょっと違ってて、he was born in Scotland and he was raised in UK and moved to 3 years ago. You moved to Luxembourg, right?
Yeah. That's indeed my history. Yes, born in Scotland. Lived in England most of my life, most of my career. Spent some time in the US. Spent some time in South Africa. And find my new home in Luxembourg since May 2019. So 2 years in Luxembourg and loving it.
Excellent. So so you have over 20 years leadership in the Vodafone. Now you are working as an accelerator. And how do you see the Luxembourg ecosystem and your life? How do you enjoy it?
Yeah, you know, I have to admit, I had no intention of leaving my home at the time in the UK when the opportunity came up. But having looked at the opportunity that Tomorrow Street presented, having looked at the very vibrant tech ecosystem that was growing in Luxembourg, I couldn't say no. And I'm pleased that I didn't. What I find is that there is a very joined up community which is focused together on growing the tech ecosystem, which brings a lot of energy and a lot of passion to try and find opportunities and move opportunities forward and help young companies be successful. And that's something that I get to enjoy pretty much every day, John, as do most of the people that work in the ecosystem.
Excellent. So no more raining, no more cloudy weather. Okay.
I find the weather very similar, I have to say. You know, it's you know, that's okay. You know, sunny days and rainy days are okay. You know, that's life. But yeah, thoroughly enjoying it and thoroughly enjoying the ecosystem in Luxembourg.
Excellent. So Semi, you are originally from Korea and you stay in Europe for over about 16 years. And
yes.
How many years you been in Luxembourg?
Now it's my 12th year in Luxembourg. 12 years in Luxembourg now. Yes, before I was studying MBA in Hamburg after my working experience in South Korea. So I settled down in Luxembourg because once you come usually accidentally for working, but the environment, as Kenny said, it's really good for families and for the business-wise. Maybe, I don't know, people know that more than nearly 50% of working forces are foreigners. So it gives a lot of diversities, multicultural environment. So when you do the business, when you go to incubators now, Vodafone also, Tomorrow Street, and then you see like from all over the world, you see the entrepreneurs. So it gives a very special atmosphere to start your business.
Is it popular among Korean startups too?
So now, as you know, South Korea is empowered a lot of initiatives to start up to go away from South Korea. The market is too small. So now there are a lot of actually requests, and amazingly during the pandemic, actually there are more than ever, more people wants to look for outside because the market was kind of paused in South Korean local market. Yeah.
I see. Because when I was invited to attend the acceleration program in Luxembourg 2 years ago, most of participants actually Korean people.
Yes.
Some are from the Middle East, a few from Japan, but most are from Korea. So I was so surprised. Maybe because of you brought all good startups to Korea, right?
No, thanks to LTIO Japan, LTIO Korea, the government also LUXKO innovation. Brings a lot of initiatives. There are a lot of good programs. As Stefan mentioned, the startup like competition programs every, I think, third month, like 4 times per year. So you should really keep an eye on because you will be really exposed and get advice from the like government or certified juries. So this is really like a very special country in the EU country. It's very small, but you will get tremendous support.
Mm-hmm. I see. Excellent. So Lisa, so you are Aussie. You are born in Australia.
Yeah, I'm Australian.
Australia. You know, I used to live there for 7 years as well.
Yeah.
And so now you are based in Singapore?
I am, yes. We are Singapore to Luxembourg to Silicon Valley. So we live between the three.
Excellent, excellent. So you are a successful entrepreneur yourself and also investor. How do you see the world, you know, everywhere? And how do you see like Silicon Valley? And you are also advising Canadian startups, you're also Austrian startups, Singaporean startups. And I didn't know you brought like an Israeli startup and also Argentine startup to Luxembourg. Wow, tell us about why Luxembourg.
Yeah, Luxembourg is a fantastic location for us. As you know, when the UK went into Brexit, it was no longer a landing pad for us. And as the entrepreneur in residence to the Canadian and Australian governments, we needed to find a new home. I had the great pleasure to land in Lux Fit for Start in January 2019, where I met Ian Creswell, who joined our team recently from Lux Innovation, and had the opportunity to experience in the space of 2 weeks for myself as an entrepreneur just how incredible the ecosystem is. When I got off the plane, I saw a sign on the ground and it said, Luxembourg, let's make it happen. And as the cynical entrepreneur, I was like, yeah, let's see what happens here. And I got on the plane, honestly, 2 weeks later, and I was like, oh my goodness me, these guys made everything happen. And I just vowed that I had to make that happen for all of my startups too. So we've been in Luxembourg now 2 years. We worked with the University of California, San Francisco Hospital to lay a digital fabric across the city and its research institutes. And we are working with governments all over the world to land and expand out of Luxembourg.
Excellent. So, what's our startups' reaction, thoughts, from Silicon Valley startup, Israeli or Canada or Austrian startup? What kind of startups are suitable for Luxembourg for their testing and also marketing research?
Yeah, we believe that Luxembourg is the new smart city. Obviously, I've been here in Singapore for the past 8 years, building with the government and with academia and the startup ecosystem our new smart city. Masters versus robots. Where do we put the humans? Where do we put the robots? And where do we do it together? And Luxembourg is on that journey where we were, I would say, 5 years ago. So we have an enormous opportunity with the beautiful infrastructure of Luxembourg to build the new data economy. And founders all over the world see the potential of that, and also on the healthcare front see the opportunity to make a contribution to value-based care. So this is an extraordinary time in history for Luxembourg in order to transform into a true smart city internationally and to displace potentially Singapore as the most competitive economy in the world. Let's see what happens, and let's make it happen, John.
Excellent. Yeah, of course. So Kenny, tell us a little bit about your Vodafone ecosystem. You guys have over 600 million customers in 24 open markets and 43 partner markets, right? And how do you help startups with Vodafone? And how do you find the right partner for them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, maybe first I should explain a little bit about Vodafone in Luxembourg, because I'm not sure I did that during my presentation, but Vodafone, Luxembourg is a really important home for Vodafone Group. The Vodafone procurement company is based in Luxembourg, and that Vodafone procurement company is doing the purchasing for over 85% of purchases across the world. Vodafone roaming services is based in Luxembourg, so that company's connecting networks and bytes and minutes and voice every day from Luxembourg, and Vodafone's global device operations are based in Luxembourg also. So it's a really important strategic hub for the Vodafone Group globally. A lot happens there. Now, Tomorrow Street being linked to the Vodafone procurement company allows us to have insights into what is it the business needs. If our team don't know the right people to talk to, if a scale-up approaches us, there's a very good chance that someone downstairs in the Vodafone building knows the right person to talk to, because we have that connectivity around the Vodafone world. As I touched on earlier in the presentation, Vodafone has networks, so mobile and fixed networks in many countries around the world and partners around the world. But one of the most exciting opportunities is the fact that Vodafone Business, which represents almost a third of Vodafone's overall global revenues, reaches over 200 countries across the world. So we've got a fantastic reach. I've been quite lucky since I joined Tomorrow Street 2 years ago. Vodafone has started to reposition. It was, I would call, traditional telco in the past, so just providing connectivity, and now a whole, it's more about being a tech comms solution, looking beyond connectivity. What are the cybersecurity solutions that customers need? Leveraging the leadership in IoT even further, looking at a whole range of digital transformation solutions for customers as well. So we're in a great position where, companies that come to Luxembourg either through Tomorrow Street Scouting Connection or from Lisa or Semi or anyone else in ecosystem we've got a fantastic opportunity to help them into that global ecosystem that we have the great privilege to play in and grow in with the people we partner with.
Excellent. That sounds amazing. So Semi, tell us about how do you help startups to find customers and also local partners in Luxembourg?
Yes. So actually, I would say that especially our accelerator focusing on Korean, Japanese startups or SME. So it's very important from my experience that the culture side is very different when they're entering from Asia to Europe. So we always work with the local also consultants, like who can also advise those the contract negotiation skills. Also, it's very different. So when in Luxembourg, for example, the Luxembourg Chamber of Commerce also has regular based exhibitions in Germany, France, like Vivatech and CES, even US and UAE. So those opportunities, you can be in a like Luxembourg pavilions for the startups, and then you can be one of the delegations. So you will get also a lot of support to meet clients. When your product is really ready to sell, it's easy to attract because Luxembourg is logistically really center, and also the big advantage is here you speak 3-4 languages very easily. I speak also 4 languages, not everything perfectly. Yes. Yes, I think Korean, English, and German and French, and Swedish is not a little bit. But this is not really wow in Luxembourg. When you live more than 10 years, it's quite natural. So you can find a high qualified, talented people who, it's not like about language only, who is a sales expert who made already sales record, but they easily speak, they grow up in different countries. So it means when you hire one like a business development person, you can access also stimulously, like not only focuses in French market, not only German market. Actually, we create like a great region. Luxembourg has like all borders like Germany, France, Belgium. So you can really immerse easily to the different language European parts. That is a really, really good success point for the business development.
Do you, Semi, do you recommend Korean or Japanese like big boss come to manage the European employees? Or
that is a very good question.
Finding a local boss?
No, I think you need actually 50-50 because the culture is so different. So Japanese, Korean big boss comes to here, and the infrastructure is totally different. Here it's too slow, all the documentations and language barriers. So it is not helpful. So you should collaborate like with local manager who manages the local teams, and that the strategy can be communicated with the headquarters from Japan and Korea, who give some kind of policies, but then it should be managed actually from the native speaking people from here, but with the control or governance by Japanese and Korean headquarters. That is the good combination from my experience.
I see. Thank you so much. What's your thought, Lisa? How do you grow startups in Luxembourg, and what's your advice for people coming from Asia to manage the new employees?
Yeah, we use analytics, in fact, to drive our people selection and also to get rid of the unconscious biases that we have in our selection process. We want to ensure that we have cultural fit day one. And so using a tool called Fingerprint for Success, we're able to understand the current culture of this team, the things that make the team thrive together, the differences in the team, and also the blind spots, and to select based on core competencies, those critical capabilities in those talents that we need in order to drive the company forward. So we use people analytics first, and we use human competencies second for that selection process.
Cool. And tell us a little bit more about how do you incubate companies in the House of MedTech and the House of Deep Tech?
Yeah, we go through a really rigorous program. As you can appreciate, deep tech scientific companies take time to cook. And so the first 90 days is really a market immersion where we forge the setup of the Luxembourg entity, we do the internal market and competitive assessment, and also do a customer experience adaptation. So we go out to the market to meet the ideal prospects and determine what is the desired customer experience, what does that look like in terms of product, price, transaction access and support, what is it that our company is going to do in this market, and what do we need partners to do in order for us to deliver and enable that experience, and finally, what are the programs that we need to build to drive that at scale. And that's the real process in that first 90 days. Once we've got the canvas finalized, we can then start to put the pieces into the puzzle in order to build the company and scale it forwards. Often clinical partnerships also take time to build. And so that's really an opportunity as well for relationship building and research discovery in order to determine who that perfect clinical or R&D partner is going to be.
And those like medtech and deep tech startups, what's their actual exit strategy?
Well, there's 4 versions of that today, right? It used to be a typical IPO. These days, of course, SPACs are an option. Second was M&A to a product roadmap of a big corporate multinational. But we also look at alternative ways of exit, things such as licensing, and also IP tech trading. So take that IP, for example, ViewMind has a beautiful neurocognitive digital biomarker. I've got a dream to incubate that into a Japanese robotics company's humanoid robotic eyes. I think that's a beautiful idea for humanoid companion robots. And we want to throw that on our IP tech trading exchange, encourage the Japanese robotics companies to join us and help them to exit that way. And these are just 4 ways that we explore exit pathways for our companies.
That's very interesting. So you find a deep tech or medtech company from all over the world, bring them to incubate in Luxembourg and go IPO in NASDAQ or sell licensing in Silicon Valley, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's the cross-border arbitrage. If we take a company out of Singapore to Luxembourg, there's typically a 50% cross-border arbitrage. And then into Silicon Valley, it's generally another additional 20% markup. And so this is a great way for our companies to give away less value and, of course, to capitalize at much higher amounts. That's perfect if you're scaling internationally.
So, I want to ask all of you, what do you think are the best way for the exit when startups in Europe is exiting London or Stockholm or Luxembourg also have a stock exchange, right? And also NASDAQ in US or maybe Japan. Kenny, any thoughts?
Sorry, coming off mute there. That's an interesting question. John, I think it really depends on the company, on their growth mission, on their investors. So I don't think there's a one answer for that. I think it really depends on the company and their profile.
Or in general, what's their actually ideal exit strategy in Luxembourg these days? What is the trend? Lisa?
Look, we are completely biased, right? I was just making a note. There needs to be 4 key things here. Founders, it's their baby, right? They didn't sacrifice so many things in order to just sell it to the first available buyer. There is a desire either to stay in that company and continue to grow it or to exit it entirely. So first is around what is the founder's future plans. The second is around strategic alignment, like Graham said, with those other investors who are at the table and the employees, and also the return on investment that a founder is looking for. Quite often a founder is not looking for the absolute highest price. They're looking for the best earnout and the best exit pathway. And obviously price does matter, so that has to be a critical factor.
All right, thank you very much. So, Sammy, I have a question. What's your recommendation or any thoughts about how can Asian startups get fundraised in Luxembourg? Are there any angel investment groups in Luxembourg?
So it's a good question. So there are two pillars, I think, for SMEs. So one is L-Bond, which Stefan mentioned already, Luxembourg Business Angel Associations, which also I'm on a kind of committee member. So surprisingly, now after pandemic, the pitch session is everything virtual. So I really encourage Japanese companies who think you already have a track record, who wants to set up the company in Europe, especially in Luxembourg. You can also knock the door of Elban. Hey, I'm Japanese company, and then we have this track record, and you can send all the pitch deck, and then the investor has the Elban members have the access. So each company has so we can review all the documentation, pitch deck, and then some of the investors make a group like, okay, I want to invest. Usually the ticket size, okay, it's seed funding, so 20K to up to 70K per person. So it's actually good when you make a seed funding outside of Japan. I recommend for a short term. And then the other thing is also the venture capital. Here there are also venture capitalists, which I mentioned, to be W investment. They are interested in East Asia. Now we supported them to find a good portfolio. So last year, 1.1 million for Series A for the blockchain company, and they are doing so well. So that is a good example. So of course, if you have a good Japanese company who is ready, to go for Series A and then set up the company in Luxembourg, maybe it can be a good partner. So those access is much, I think, easier than other big cities, Paris, or even though they are big cities, somehow I think here ecosystem is still growing. So you have more chances for the investors, I think. Yeah.
I see. So Semi, that your angel investment group, are they investing mostly? So what kind of industries are popular?
Yeah, so actually, we try to do something with more of Luxembourg pillar, like AI. So it's most popular, so autonomous driving, which is AI, or fintech especially. But why fintech? Luxembourg, since the Brexit, if you want to have the license, financial license to operate, you should have in Europe. So Luxembourg is a good place to make this kind of EU license and then to operate your blockchain or fintech business from here. Yeah.
I see. Very interesting. So Kenny, your support Middle Eastern startups as well, right?
Yeah, we have a mix of scale-ups from North America, from the UK, from the Middle East. We'd love to find an exciting company from Japan to join our program. So I see Marissa has posted some details about Tomorrow Street. So if you're a scale-up with a technology which is proven and ready to go global, please reach out. So we'd love to start to find companies from Japan to join our program.
Yeah, could you tell us a little bit more about Tomorrow Street? How do you support Japanese company?
Yeah, it's a little as I touched on earlier. It's really about, first of all, I think it's about translating, if you like, the product to make it as relevant as possible for the markets that we have reach into. Okay, so it's about getting the right message and the right positioning for that core capability, so it's as relevant as possible to the Vodafone markets that I touched on earlier. Then what we do is we basically draw out an opportunity map. Now, Vodafone, I said, we're blessed with a very large ecosystem, which means we can draw up a long list of potential people to introduce a company to try that maybe their technology may be relevant for, and then we can help them through the processes in terms of the procurement processes, the sales processes, so that they can get their product out to the end customer. So it's really about a bit of marketing support, a bit of process support. It's about connecting to people. It's about supporting through the process. As Lisa and Semi will know, it's about nudging things forward all the time. We work with very busy people. You need to make sure that your companies, your partners are staying, in the minds of the people who can make a difference to those companies and those founders. So that's what we do. It can be hard work sometimes, but it's an absolute pleasure when you start to see the success of those companies once they bed in and start being successful. We've got some great examples now, which we're very pleased to see our companies, and not only been successful in Vodafone, they're now setting up their teams in Luxembourg, and they're starting to connect around Luxembourg, and new opportunities are starting to be opened up that they didn't appreciate and we didn't appreciate before until people start to connect. And that's, a wonderful part of being, in a really vibrant ecosystem.
Excellent. Guys, it's already, 30 minutes. So we have to close up. Thank you so much, Kenny, Semi, Lisa. It's amazing. Thank you so much. And let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen.
All Japanese coming to Luxembourg to change the world.
Sounds good, John. Well,
thank you, guys.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for everybody. 今からですね、ちょっと時間が押しているんですけれども、一般の参加者の皆さんから Q&A をちょっと受け付けたいと思います。で、一人今ですね、Q&A をいただいておりまして、Kenneth, you are receiving the Q&A from the audience, one audience. So the question is, I guess you have a particular reason focus on late stage companies.Could you elaborate on this a bit more? So, Tomorrow Street がレートステージのスタートアップカンパニーにフォーカスしている理由というのをもう少し教えてくださいということです。Kenny, are you able to reply?
Yeah, no, very, very good question. So Vodafone has worked with many startups in the past, and as everyone knows, it can be a long journey to get to the point of business outcomes, and that's a journey you have to go through. But Tomorrow Street was specifically set up to accelerate at pace, right? So the idea was find companies that, as I said earlier, the product is proven, but it's ready to go global and to scale at pace. And also, if you remember, part of our mission is to bring young companies to Luxembourg, and sometimes that's quicker and easier to do if the company's already growing. And so, yeah, it was about the pace that we wanted to operate. That's why we were focusing on the scale-ups. I hope in time, over the next 18 months, once we start to see the great success and the journey that we're on, and a really vibrant Tomorrow Street with lots of great people in the building from the different companies, that we might be able to start to lean back a little bit and look slightly earlier and have a longer trajectory. It would be a pleasure to be able to do that. But right now, we're focusing on scaling it at a real pace.
では、ちょっとですね、もう、お時間迫っておりますので、最後に、ちょっとイベントの告知をさせてください。すいません。今、スライド見えてると思いますけれども、最後にですね、ルクセンブルク最大のテックカンファレンスのご紹介させていただきます。9月14日、15日にですね、ICT スプリングヨーロッパが現地で開催されます。ルクセンブルク貿易投資事務所では、毎年、去年まで日本のスタートアップ向けに無料で展示ブースを提供してまいりました。今年は現地会場とオンラインのハイブリッドで、会場のメインプログラムの模様は、ライブストリーミングでご覧いただけます。また、オンライン上でのネットワーキングも可能です。また、今年初の試みとして、マスターマインドサミット&コンペティションというスタートアップ向けのサイドイベントもつい先日発表されました。このタイミングでの日本からのご渡航というのはなかなか難しいと存じますが、公式サイトではすでに現在スタートアップ企業を募集中です。順次私たちのウェブサイトや SNS、ニュースレター等でもアップデートしてまいります。はい。では、ウェビナーとしては、以上でございますので、改めて皆様本日はどうもありがとうございました。また皆様にお目にかかれる日を楽しみにしております。それでは失礼いたします。